During today's episode, we dive into this interview and fully discuss Common Grace, a tool for common ground in the public square with Case Thorp.
How to get more understanding day to day at work from my coworkers, or how do I understand my coworkers better? Is God using my non-Christian coworker? It helps Christ followers frame their own work as an expression of God's mission to the world.
The simple fact that we can lift up God together and be able to talk about common grace is the beauty within the local church, and I'm all about the church. So stay tuned as we dive into this conversation and let us grow together in Christ. Hey, Ear Podcast listeners. You want to share your opinion, give feedback, or tell me what you're thinking? Then go ahead and send me a voice message. Voice messages are an easy way for you to send me audio that might end up in future episodes of the Ear Podcast. They're the latest feature from Anchor and the platform that I use to build this podcast. Here are some things I'd love to hear from you. Questions you may have for me. What do you think of this episode? What do you think of the topic that we're discussing? Who do you think I should interview next? Do your best impression of me. I don't know. I'll see all of your messages and I might add them into future episodes. Anchor makes this super easy for you to do. You can send me voice messages right now from wherever you're listening. Just tap the link in my show notes and I cannot wait to hear from you.
The Ear, Evangelical and Reformed Christian Podcast. Welcome to The Ear, the Evangelical and Reformed, a Christian podcast that urges you to think deeper and draws you closer to God through faith. Through powerful sermons, teaching segments, and discussions, The Ear hopes to give you a different perspective on secular topics from a Christian worldview. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Please welcome your host, Brandon Queen.
Good morning, podcast world, and welcome to yet another episode of The Ear. We are on season 2, and we're diving on in with another episode 5, with Case Thorp. And we're going to discuss his article, Common Grace, a tool for common ground in the public square. So with me, I have Case Thorp. Mr. Case, how you doing, buddy?
I'm well, Brandon. Good morning.
All right. You want to go ahead and tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I am a husband of Jody and father of 3 precious children, pastor in Orlando, Florida. Now in my 20th year of ordained ministry. From Atlanta originally, and really enjoy Florida living.
Nice. Yeah, I was in Florida a couple months ago at the EPC office, and they got some nice weather.
It's nice.
All right. So, aren't you the moderator elect this year at the General Assembly?
I am. I was just very grateful and shocked to get that phone call, but it has been a great year of learning more about our church and how she works, and I'm really looking forward to this next year of leadership.
Nice. I bet. Yeah, it's always awesome. When I became an elder back in 2017, and I got to go to my first General Assembly, I'm like, because like when my church was with the PCUSA, I always wondered, how does that work? And of course, we left the PCUSA and joined EPC, and I got a chance to see how the church functions on a national level, on a regional level, and then, of course, on a local church level. And it's a very beautiful process.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. I am so touched by the fellowship that we enjoy in the EPC.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no big elephants in the room. We know who and what we are, and so we can focus on mission, and my time at EPC has just been delightful.
Yeah, and that's the joy of it, the fellowship. I've made so many new friends and met so many pastors. As a matter of fact, a lot of those pastors have been on my podcast in the past. And I keep in contact with most of those pastors till this day. And I met them back in 2017. And it's like every year I'm meeting new people. And it's just amazing. It's amazing.
That's a good group.
All right. We're going to go ahead and dive into your essay. And you wrote your essay for the Westminster Society Journal. And if I'm not mistaken, this article was already published somewhere else. Am I right?
Well, I had written it for an essay contest in another publication. It did not get accepted. And when Matthew Everhard extended the invitation to contribute, I thought, okay, there's something here and I want to rework it. So I reworked it for the purposes of this publication. And then along the way, I have taken bits of it and published a 5-part blog series. So those that are okay with a long form essay can get it in this journal. And then there's segments of it that we have published at the Collaborative for our weekly blog posting.
Awesome. Now, what is the Collaborative?
So the Collaborative is First Presbyterian Church of Orlando's cultural renewal ministry. We help people to integrate their faith and work. And in doing so, hope to see both institutions and individuals out there building the kingdom of God in our community.
That is awesome. I like that. And what part of Florida? What part of Florida are you from again?
I'm here in Orlando, right downtown.
All right. So you're probably 5 minutes away from the EPC office?
Not far. It's about 15 minutes one way, and Disney is 25 the other. So Jeff Jeremiah or Mickey Mouse, what else can I name?
Well, I'm not a fan of Disney, so I'd probably take Jeff Jeremiah. All right. So, Case, in your essay, you make a statement that the megachurch pastors have fallen from grace infused with the celebrity power. What do you mean by that statement?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was an article that Andy Crouch had published in Christianity Today, where after quite a number of pastors had made big mistakes and been caught in the big limelight for their mistakes. And I think back as a Gen Xer, we're very much defined over the fact that we grew up in the era of Jimmy Swaggart, Jim Baker, and clergy that just were more about their own power and fame than necessarily the gospel. And then you see it happening again. Bill Hybels, Mark Driscoll. I mean, it's a tough thing when a pastor falls, absolutely. And we know that we're human and it happens. But you put on top of that the mass communication and the spotlight of fame, this late 20th century oddity of a thing. And it hurts all of us as Christians, I think. And Crouch really got my attention as he kind of responded and wrote that out.
Interesting. Sorry, I'm looking for my Bible, so I have to grab another one. Yeah, and it's kind of sad that Mark Driscoll now falls into that camp because he's I like him, you know.
Well, and I don't know all of their particular situations, and I know that God can still use them and restore their paths. But Crouch was putting out a call of warning for all of us. And it's a tempting thing with Facebook and Twitter and podcasts that you begin to communicate and connect with people beyond the personal relationship that you can have. And how do you steward that well so that the gospel is lifted up, not individuals? And when mess ups happen, it doesn't it doesn't embarrass the church.
Right.
It's very hard.
And we live in an age where we do have a lot of celebrity pastors. And, I like the way Matt Chandler carries himself because he's considered a mega church pastor, but he doesn't act like one.
Sure.
I don't know if you know much about Matt Chandler. But
in DC.
No, he's actually in Dallas.
Well, no, I don't.
Yeah, Matt. Well, he's Reformed Baptist. That's probably why you don't know him, because you're Presbyterian. But anyway,
Mm.
he goes about it so well. Like, he carries himself so well. He basically runs from the fame. I mean, we're talking about a guy that went to, back in 2012. He went to a Code Orange revival, which was really out of his realm because he is Reformed in his theology, and Stephen Furtick, the pastor at Elevation, is not, but we're talking about a pastor that goes to another pastor's church and corrects him in front of his congregation, but this guy runs from fame in the sense of, yeah, I'm Matt Chandler, but I'm not the one that can save you, and that's what I like about him. And that's something about Presbyterians too. We're very education, that's like number one. Okay. So we're educated, but we're never going to be a large denomination because we're not the type that attract the crowds, if you will. So,
well, someone said to me that a mark of great leadership is that with increasing notoriety also should come increasing accountability.
Absolutely.
And that really weighed heavily on me when they called about this moderator-elect role. And I don't pretend to think there's any fame or a comparison with some of the big leagues out there, but I just felt this burden that I am responsible to more people and responsible to more good work for the kingdom. And so I worked in a few more accountability measures, and I just think that's important.
Yeah.
Because that sin is in all of us, and at all times can rear its ugly head.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to go to the Bible, okay? And since you are the pastor, I want you and I want the listeners to look at Ephesians 5:27. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what I did with my ESV version of my Bible, so I'm reading from the is it CBS? I'm reading from the Christian Standard Bible, which will be a little different from what you have, Case. But that particular verse, and I think you used the NIV, am I correct?
That's right.
Okay. So Ephesians 5:27 says this. Let me get to it. It says that he did this to present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or anything like that, but holy and blameless.
Beautiful.
Now, I want you to exegete that as a pastor. Help us understand what that means.
Well, I have now sat for 15 years under the preaching of my senior pastor, Dr. David Swanson. And David has a very, very high ecclesiology. Ecclesiology being that study of the church. And when you have a high ecclesiology, you just have this very, very high regard for the cosmic nature, the theological importance of Christians coming together as God's missional arm. And he often, in his preaching, refers to the church as a she in a personified type way. And because of his high ecclesiology, he will often reference this verse in connection to who our members, our congregants are, and how they conduct their personal lives, how they serve both in the church and out in the community. And so it's shaped me as well. And in this particular verse, Paul is making the comparison for how a husband is to love their wife. And just as a husband hopes to see his wife as beautiful as possible, so too does Christ seek to see the church in the same way, without any stain or wrinkle, any blemish. And how do we in this age, where there is sin, where it is a broken creation, work intentionally to see that the church is holy and blameless? And that's hard, and it's not possible in this age, but that is the challenge. And so in my opening for the essay in the journal, I am just taken with